Hello, I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for FinextraTV here at the Temenos Community Forum 2026 in Copenhagen. And I'm joined by Will Moroney, Chief Revenue Officer, Temenos. And we're going to be talking about core modernization and that transformation journey. So Will, welcome to our pop-up TCF 26 studio.
Good morning, Debbie. It's great to be here.
And what a conversation. Core modernization really is dominating a lot of our talk here. And I mean, of course, it's no longer about whether banks are going to modernize. The conversation really is settling on how. So let's look at that how. What determines that a bank moves forward with confidence rather than stalling at that decision-making stage?
Well, I think we're very fortunate in our industry, to be honest with you, because banks have been moving for many, many years at different speeds. And the speed that they've been moving on their modernization journey is dependent on many factors. The geography that they're in, the size of the bank, the type of banking that they're doing, or maybe just even the culture of the bank. So the thing that all banks have in common now is that they're all on the journey. Some might just be a little bit further ahead than others, or some might have followed that journey in some different areas than others. And that's the big pivot, I think. That's the big change, because a certain proportion of banks would not have been on that journey. They would have been trying to continue to sweat the investments that they had made over the past number of decades. So when it comes to the how nowadays, it has changed in the last few years. Instead of very large, let's say, high-risk projects, banks are looking at more piecemeal or progressive types of modernizing their tech stack. And the systems that are now in the market, like the systems that we have in Temenos, they lend themselves to that sort of progressive modernization. So instead of the large, risky project, we go on a journey for multiple years with our banks to modernize different parts of the bank or different geos within the bank.
Mm-hmm. And within the conversation here at Temenos, there's one word that dominates, it's trust. And I know that you've built this trust into your own presentations, not only in technology, but the execution. So in your opinion, what actually builds trust in a large-scale transformation program?
Well, trust is actually one of our themes here at TCF 2026. And trust is critical when you go on one of these long programs. Now, if you think about the history of banking technologies, especially core banking technologies, which is the majority of what we do, these are relationships that partners or vendors, whatever you want to call us, have with banks, not for years, but for decades. So when you build that kind of a multi-decade relationship, then trust has to be at the center of it. Now, trust is never on the contract. There's no clause in the contract that talks about trust. So trust starts with transparency. It starts with transparency from both sides. And then if you have transparency as you go on this journey, then what you find is that teams come together and you don't actually realize which team is, who's from which area of the team. So that's inherently how the trust grows. You can't just switch trust on. It comes over time. Now, it's a theme because it's probably the most important thing in a large-scale program when you get into that. Having that transparency, coming together as one team, working on shared missions, shared goals. If you think about it in any other sphere, like a great football team or a phenomenal school class, well, trust inherently comes into those relationships. So that's why it's one of the themes here this year in TCF.
I was actually thinking that while you were talking, that in any relationship, whether it's business or personal, that transparency definitely goes with trust.
100%.
And let's look at those big transformation programs. What separates a transformation program that really delivers measurable value to one that struggles to justify the investment it's had?
See, I think the answer is actually in your question. It's the metrics of the measurability. In the past, many large technology transformation programs were undergone as a necessity because the technology was old and needed to be replaced. So the project was more of a technology project than a business transformation project. So the most important thing on programs like this today is to understand the metrics but the business metrics behind what you're doing. So as long as you have those business metrics, which of course are going to boil down in the end to a business case with an ROI and a payback period, then that's the very important first step. Okay? Then you have to deliver the program then in line with the plan. And it has to A, be on time and be on budget, but B, more importantly, it has to deliver the value that we mapped out in the beginning. Now, this is the way that we approach programs. We actually have a specific department within Temenos called the value team, and they work at the very beginning together with our customers to figure out what the key business value is and how that drives into improvement of financial metrics for our bank. And then they monitor throughout the program and check back afterwards to see how it has moved the needle. Now, an example of how you drive real value and how you drive financial metrics like this is still in the banking process. So, for example, if it's corporate loan application and corporate loan approval, well, we track and we try to benchmark how much time it takes the bank pre-transformation and then how much we can slim that down post-transformation, because that has a big impact on how many customers they can bring on board, how they can win new business, and ultimately how they can grow their revenue.
Gosh, and there's lots to take in on this journey, but what I'm hearing is that it's got that trust, it's got that transparency, and also that lovely comparison as to where they were before and where they are now and where they're going to be looking forward as they move with confidence. So thank you very much, Will. It's been lovely chatting to you.
It's great to be here. Thank you.